Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Golnish Hakim Dafar, and I'm creating this video as a follow-up to several other videos I've created on rule of law, judicial decision making, and judicial reasoning. What I want to talk about is, or focus on in this video, is hopefully helpful for my current and former students and perhaps practitioners of rule of law and any scholars that may be interested in starting or restarting the conversation on some practices within the rule of law. Often when we think about rule of law, we are thinking about the relationship of state and law. We focus in practice in creating stronger institutions. We focus on strengthening the judiciary, working closely with courts, ensuring that the courts have strong mechanisms in place to address citizen demand. However, what is missing in this process is the citizen. After all, the rule of law is to establish a system or establish an order to protect citizens equally. In particular, protect the citizens' autonomy and property, if we put it in Kantian terms. If that's in the center of attention, then the citizen should be uniquely positioned as the primary receiver, as the primary contributor to any discussion on rule of law. Of course, within that, then we're positioning law to articulate, to inform, to protect, and to restrain, right? These four aspects of law should be towards the citizens, should be directed towards the citizen: inform, articulate, protect, and constrain. But also it should be towards the institutions. So that's where that relationship of citizen and institution comes in. It's in the actions of law. It's where in how law is going to, and how rule of law is going to move from one stage to another. And that stage being from informing, articulating, informing, protecting, and restraining. As you see, in every one of those, there are two layers. In every one of those aspects of law, there are two layers. One layer is going to be the institutional side, and one layer is going to be the citizen. So, of course, the judiciary is going to be a fundamental protector, right? A fundamental guardian of the rule of law. But it is the citizen that needs to be the buyer of that court structure, right? We don't want to create a court structure that is strong but does not have a buyer. So when we think about the citizens and the fundamental rights, right, of citizens and the position of citizens, it is that cultural and the historical concepts and the relationships that really need to come into attention. So I want to start off I want to think about rule of law as starting off from the two concepts that I mentioned, which is articulate and inform. So in order to, and that information side should go two ways. In order to inform, we need to understand better the society that we're working with, right? What are the needs? What are the demands of that society? How are those demands going to inform the law and the institutions? So the work, often when we are working as rule of law practitioners, we first go to institutions, and in restrictive societies where institutions provide limited access, we have the tendency of either dismissing or backing away from any work that we're going to conduct in rule of law. But I want to urge us to actually look at it from a different perspective. It's not the institutions we should be focusing on, but it should be the citizens. So we can work closely with citizens. We can start creating a relationship with the society, from that human to human, from creating informal structures, informal discussions with communities about what their needs are, about what their demands are, and about what they expect from the law. Okay, so law is only as good as what it does for the society. right? We can have very, very, very strong legislation written, and we can have scholars come in and write legislation that they think is best fit for the society. But unless the society has had a say, has had a contribution, that law is not going to be relevant, right? So it's through informal mechanisms, informal societal connections, that we can start thinking about how to address institutional needs. So working within the society, with the society's demands, whether it is through civil society organizations or whether it is through more informal structures, working through youth centers, talking to recent graduates of universities, we can see what the needs and demands are, where they see the flaw, where they see the lack of access, and through those informal means, then slowly work through institutional levels. So I want to open up this as a form of discussion on how are we going to engage societies in order to inform rule of law in transition and developing economies and democracies. I do want to put in parentheses that democracy and rule of law are not the same. And rule of law is not the same as democracy, but rather the rule of law is a contributor to a democratic state.